we are going to begin what we call the after show. And For the after show, we've got some wonderful things that are going to take place. I think that Shakti Durga, who's still with us, might be available to answer a question or two. People are saying we loved hearing you sing, but we want to hear you speak. So thank you for staying with us all the way from Australia. And I'd just love to open it up to anything you want to share, anything you want to reflect on what you heard tonight, or anything you'd like to share.
Thank you very much, Scott, and thanks for the opportunity to be on this program with all these luminous souls. I think one of the things that really struck me this evening was just the diversity and the way that there's a flavor for everybody. We're all somewhere on the path, and the path is not the same for everybody. Everybody has a unique path, and there's a deep end to the path, there's a shallow end to the path, there's a middle bit, there's a bit where you're in the rapids, there's a bit where you're going over a waterfall. There's so many different experiences on the spiritual path, and that's my passion, is the spiritual path, actually. And that's what a lot of my work is about, supporting people who actually identify with being on a spiritual path. But what I really saw tonight was so many different colors and flavors of divine grace. And what I would say to the people who are watching this is to really just listen internally to the flavors that really spoke to you, and really follow it up and dive in with those particular presenters, so that you can just get the next bit, and then another piece will open. And we just have to follow the breadcrumbs on a spiritual path to get to that place where peace is, and to reach that place inside of us where the peace has always been. And so, whatever the breadcrumbs look like for you, I think there was a lot on offer here this evening, and I'm real grateful to have been involved.
Shakti Durga, I want to ask you another question, if I may.
Yeah.
Um, because I want to acknowledge that, it's a love fest and most of us are really feeling, but I want to acknowledge anybody who's watching who's not feeling, they're not feeling that same level of inclusion. Maybe they're feeling isolated. Maybe they're feeling disconnected. Um, because, that's out there too. Maybe they're disillusioned and even wondering how can there be a God? How can there, with all this that's going on, because life is hard for some people.
Mm.
So, what would be your message or your invitation to anybody who's in that particular state of consciousness or close to that?
I think that one of the main things to do is to be open to the opportunities for help that are available, and to take them. The first thing is, it's like when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. That's a very old truth. And so, for somebody who's feeling miserable, and as I said earlier or last night, that's how my journey started, was because of pain. That's how I got on my spiritual path. And I think a lot of us do. So if you're feeling like that, you're not alone, and you're normal. So just reaching out to the color and flavor of the person who you feel has got something, some kind of code or key for you, and start where you're at, and just take one step. That's what I would suggest, just one step, and that will lead to something else.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Um, Anything else you'd like to share that's kind of coming through that beautiful channel that you are?
I think to just take a moment for the deep appreciation of self,
Mm.
and that when we first start on the path, I think we look at people who've been practicing for a long time, like Kaji or Debbie, or you, Scott, or Teresa, or Jen, or any of the presenters, and you think, oh, wow, look at that. Isn't that amazing? But I really take the view that if we can actually perceive that, then that is in the process of waking up within us, and it's already in us. And so you're really just looking in a mirror, and you're really seeing an aspect of self in anything that has inspired you during this whole program. And so just remember that you're one with us. We're all one, and we're in it together.
Thank you for that.
Mm.
And it is so important, and it really is true. That's why Teresa and I have been so dedicated to doing these shows, is to really build community and to let people that have been feeling isolated have a place to come and meet you and meet Paulette and meet all the wonderful people and get some inspiring music and hear some inspiring words and learn about the things that are going on in our world that are, our news media, of course, focuses on all the negative. And there's so many beautiful, positive things that are happening. There's so many amazing human beings and organizations coming forward to create this awakening world that we
Mm.
are all a part of.
Right. And I would remind people that we do offer free lift sessions on our site, thewbi.org, the Wellbeing Initiative, thewbi.org. And that if you're struggling, if you're feeling depressed or anxious, or you've got a lot of pain or relationship problems, then we offer to those who are struggling financially, we have a charitable program where the healings are free. And so there's no financial reason why you can't get the help you need. All you have to do is push the buttons on the website and let us know. And our staff will be in the office. It's Sunday here in Australia. So our staff will be back in the office on Monday. We're closed Tuesday and open Thursday through Friday. Email is a good way to contact us, and you can do that through the website. And you can also apply for lift sessions through that website. And we take the view that those who can afford to pay are supporting those who can't afford to pay. And so it's one of those lovely giving type situations. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for doing that. And again, I'm going to just give people it's the WBI.org. WBI standing for Well-Being Initiative.
Yeah.
The WBI.org. And it's just click book a lift or apply here. Or if you feel inspired, donate. For those of you that are abundant, um, for those of you that are abundant, donate now. For those of you who aren't abundant, come to the March 7th Deepak Chopra event to learn more about being abundant, okay?
Good idea.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you so much, Shakti Durga.
My
I
pleasure.
love I love that you really brought that home, Shakti, around there were so many offerings tonight, and I know different people resonated with different ones. And that's the whole point of us having these shows like this, Scott, or the pulses, where we're introducing to people to the field, to our community, to the resources that we all are together. And we know we can make it when we're together. And we know just one step, like you said, that's all you need is one step. Reach out for one bit of help, and that starts the journey. So thank you for
There's
that. And
there's a question here. Dr. Laura asks, if you don't mind, Shakti Durga, could you please ask Shakti Durga if she has any words of wisdom for handling the chaos of our time? Hope is a bit elusive right now. Do you have any pearls?
Well, it's chaotic, all right, but I think in every age one could have incarnated into, there's a certain degree of chaos going on in the world. And I think that the mystical seekers throughout the ages have all found in common that the way to find that peace is internally. And when we can find that peace internally, whether it's through meditation or healing or whatever it is that takes your interest, it takes some practice to find that peace, but that over time we can hold our peace and go back to the peace faster, even when there's situations going on all around us that are very difficult to deal with, be it personally or transpersonally, locally or globally. So inwards is the way, a bit like what Deepak was saying earlier. Mm.
Yeah, I'm a strong believer in the attitude of gratitude. No
Mhm.
matter what's going on in our life, we can always find something to be grateful for.
Yeah.
And the moment we start blessing another person or being grateful for something, it
Mm.
changes our vibration, it changes our frequency. And of course, all of us have something that we're in pain about or discomfort. And not to stuff it, acknowledge the pain, acknowledge the discomfort, but then pivot into gratitude, pivot
Mm.
into or blessing another person.
Yeah.
It changes our frequency.
Yeah. One other thing I would add is that our attention can get taken by the fear paradigms, and then we can get locked into and even trapped by those fear paradigms. But nature can help us to get out of that. And another way that I find very good for myself anyway is connecting with nature, and even to just switch my focus from, oh, I've just watched the news. Now I'm going to watch the forest outside my home. I'm just going to watch the birds. I'm going to watch the trees. I'm just going to see what's happening in the reality in which I myself am living in this moment. And very often I find that very soothing and calming, and it's something any of us can do.
That's a great advice. I'm going to bring Khadijah on. Anything that she wants to add, and I also am going to put the spotlight for a moment, actually, on Debbie Johnston, who she's such a wonderful support person. She is the person who's been putting all the links for everybody into Facebook and our Zoom room. So let's all just take a minute to twinkle Debbie. Thank you so much, Debbie, for all the support that you give to the Global Peace Tribe. We love
Thank
you.
you, Debbie. Thank you so much.
With one hand, by the way, she broke her wrist, so she's doing it all with one hand. God bless her soul. That's her dedication. So
That's
thank
why
you.
there's a few typos, but thank you for bearing with me.
Oh, thank you, Debbie. We love you so much. Ah, Kadishi, anything that you'd like to that stood out for you tonight, or that you'd like to reflect?
Yeah, actually, I just was listening to Shakti Durga. I just really felt this overcoming sense to share about our body's reaction, right, to unhealed trauma, right, or unhealed past pains, right? And for me in my own healing journey, anytime I have anything going on with my body, like even this week, I've had something going on with my neck, and I know that has to do with my throat chakra and has to do with my fear of being vocal, of bringing my voice to the world, which goes from way, way, way back when I was a kid, and from not being accepted or not being heard or whatever the reasons were. And so now as I was coming into this weekend and I had this thing going on with my neck, I was like, oh, this is really big, because I'm going into a space where I'm going to use my voice in such a bigger capacity than I have. And so it makes sense that this is coming up. But the reason I'm sharing this is I could have very easily just been like, oh, that's just my neck, and made a bunch of excuses for it. But instead, what I did was I realized and recognized that that was my body's reaction to unhealed trauma, and that I needed to go back inside to really look at what was there, to uncover the moments in my life where I felt like I was suffocating, or I felt like I had no voice, or I felt like my voice wasn't valuable. And I had the opportunity to change the story, right? And so this is that beautiful opportunity when our bodies bring up anxiety or fear or actual physical ailments. If we could just use them and think of them as gifts instead of a detriment to us, but it's a gift to go even deeper, to uncover something that we didn't maybe even know was there, to really, really find that space within us where something like, Dr. Bradley Nelson was talking about, where we have those little dark clouds, right? And finding them and really liberating them just from our awareness on them. And so that's, I think, I always, at my meditations on Fridays and the monthly ones, and any of them I do, I always say there's an invitation in every meditation. And I feel like tonight this weekend, there's a really big invitation to use our physical symptoms, our emotional symptoms as gifts, and let ourselves understand ourselves just a little bit more by going within and looking at those things just a little closer.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. That's a
Mhm.
wonderful sharing. I want to invite everybody, and I'm glad that Paulette and Shakti and Khadijah are still with us. During the show, it was pointed out to me something rather sad and shocking. One of our regular viewers, Preston Wilson, died on February 12th. And I'm going to bring up a photo from his Facebook page. This beautiful man, there he is with his daughter. And I think we all, probably many of us know people that are passing or have passed. There's a lot of passages right now. And so as we just look at this photo, Preston passed away on February 12th. So it was just a week ago. I always love what Yogananda taught, that a beautiful short blessing is just maximum grace. Maximum grace. So as we look at Preston and his surviving daughter, let's just hold maximum grace for Preston, for his family. Maximum grace. Maximum grace. Maximum grace. And I'm going to go ahead and just go into gallery view so you see some of our beautiful people that are here still. And let's just hold a moment of prayer. And anyone, we still have over 100 people on our Zoom room and a lot watching on Facebook. In this moment of prayer, in this moment of maximum grace, I welcome anyone who wants to put into this healing circle where we're all over the world, all the way to Australia and all the way East Coast and California. So as we build this bridge of love and light and maximum grace, inviting you to bring anyone into this circle that you want to pray for. Whether it's someone dealing with emotional, physical, spiritual challenges. Maximum grace. Maximum grace. Thank you. Thank you, Shakti Durga, Paulette, Teresa, Khadijah. Thank you, everybody. I see people putting things in the chat box. And I'm going to use this as a segue to talk about the power of prayer. On Tuesday, we're going to be gathering to pray for peace, specifically in Ukraine. And so I'm going to go to an interview, a conversation I had with beautiful brother James Francis Twyman, who's leading this Vigil for Peace on Tuesday. And he's many of you know him as the Peace Troubadour. Traveled all over the world. He's written best-selling books. He's a wonderful musical artist. He's led peace events all over the world. And here's what he's going to be doing for the Ukraine. Welcome to the AfterShow, everybody. And we are blessed to be with Brother James Francis Twyman. You saw a little clip during our Global Peace Tribe announcements. And I would love for you to share with us, how can we really create peace in the world? So now that we're aware, we see all the headlines about the imminent danger to Ukraine. What can we do as individuals? Certainly, of course, joining you on Tuesday, but also just in general, how can we create peace in our world?
It's a great question, Scott. First of all, to realize just how powerful we are, both collectively and individually. We each have within us this amazing power to build and to bring peace, especially when we join together. There is power in joining. And we've seen many times before when thousands or even millions of people join together to focus their intention, that powerful positive vibration onto a given world crisis. Miracles happen. I could give example after example, but I'll give two quick ones because they both have to
a couple
do.
examples. Yeah.
Yeah, very early on, I started off as the peace troubadour going into Bosnia and Croatia during that war in the mid 90s. And then a few years later, after my first book, Emissary of Light, came out, I was invited by Saddam Hussein to come to Baghdad at the same time we were getting ready to launch a major military offensive against the Iraqi people. There didn't seem to be any way of blocking this. This was in 1998. And at that time, very few people really had emails and email lists, but we sent out an email to about 300 people asking them to be praying and sending their positive energy and prayers to that situation in Iraq. At the same time, I would be doing the concert in Baghdad. And that it was one of the first examples of a viral video just taking off, and millions of people found out about it and were participating. I could feel during the concert like it was raining this positive energy, and there didn't seem to be any possibility of a negotiated peace. But 3 days later, everything changed. We could almost feel the energy shift during that concert, and a peace accord was signed. Well, as things happen, it got a little hairy again. And so my friend Greg Braden and I, we decided to do this again. We called it the Great Experiment. Let's see if we can prove that this is not only a powerful force, but perhaps the most powerful force in the whole universe. And once again, we were right there in the verge. We invited people all over the world to be part of this synchronized meditation. And what we didn't know at the time, but found out the next day, was that at the same time, there were so many people who were praying, being, sending their energy, being part of this synchronized meditation. At the same time this was happening, President Clinton had given the order for the jets and the bombers to be launched from the aircraft carriers. They were literally hovering above Iraq, waiting for the final order to begin bombing. And to this day, no one knows quite what happened. But it was almost in the face of this positive energy, it couldn't happen. The planes were called back to the aircraft carriers. A very short time later, they were launched again, and then they were brought back. One night, not a single person was injured or killed. This is what began to inspire us. And over and over and over, I could tell so many stories of the miracles that have happened. But obviously, we're in a pivotal moment right now with the Russian forces on the Ukrainian border. This is much more than just a regional skirmish. This is something that could so easily escalate and get out of control in a very terrible way. And this is why it's so important that we all join together at 9 a.m. Pacific time, noon and Eastern US time on February 22nd, which is on Tuesday, which is a very auspicious number because it's 222-2022. And so unified.org is doing a whole day of events on that day. We're going to be starting off. I was intending to be in Ukraine. Tickets were purchased. Everything was organized with our sponsor there in Kiev. But unfortunately, the flights have been canceled. American citizens are now not being allowed to leave. In fact, they're being forced out. Everyone has to leave. So I won't be able to be there physically, but we do have a contingency of people from the Peace School in Ukraine who are going to be joining us on unified.org/love. That's where you can actually watch it and participate with thousands of people. But if you can't be there at that time, we invite you just to stop what you're doing. And here's the key: to get the energy and the feeling that peace has already come to Ukraine, that this situation has already been solved and healed. If enough of us do this positive energy on a feeling basis, this is where the power of prayer really becomes tangible. It's not about asking for something to happen, or what we would call a petitionary prayer. It's about feeling that it's already done. In doing so, we take part in the collective vibratory energy of the completion of this goal in advance, and the energy follows. So I just invite you, please spread the word. You can tell everyone to go to unify.org/love, or just send out the information. If you want to get an email, you can always go to my website, which is jamesftwyman.com. Register for our email blast. We're going to be sending out an email right before the vigil happens so that you have all of these links. Participate, join millions of people. Let's do our best to make sure that peace is prevailing on earth and in the Ukraine.
Wow, thank you so much. And I actually, in what you shared, I want to share with you a story you may not know, which you can then share because it's a powerful story about creating peace. A few years ago, you know how presidential files are released in different periods. Some are held for 25 years, some for 50 years. Well, they released some of the files from when President Nixon was president. And it turns out that during the Vietnam War, when America was clearly losing the war, on a very rainy day in Washington, D.C., a group of generals came over to meet with Nixon, and they presented a proposal to use nuclear weapons on Hanoi to turn the tide of the war. That particular day, had been raining and pouring, and Nixon had gone out, and when he came back in, he saw all these protesters, all these kids getting soaked in the rain, protesting the Vietnam War. And here he is about to make this incredible, important decision, because if he said, okay, thumbs up, nuclear weapons would have been dropped.
Wow.
And in the records, it specifically says, you know what? I see all those kids out there in the rain protesting. What the hell is going to happen if we start using nuclear weapons? And he said, no. And my tears come because those kids probably have no idea what they did. They just were like, what are we doing? Nobody's paying any attention to us. We're getting soaked. But God knows how they changed the course of history and saved God knows how many lives by their action. So sometimes when we're praying for peace, peacefully protesting, we don't know who's seeing it. We don't know how we're impacting. And so that's why it is so important for us to pray for peace. And thank you so much for leading vigils and opportunities for us to come together and create peace together.
I love that story. Thank you for so much for sharing that with all of us. And you're right, it shows the simple, impactful ways that we can begin to shape this moment and history. I mean, who knows what would have happened if they had not been standing in the rain that day. But as you said, they had no idea. And we have no idea just by sitting in our room and joining in a broadcast, or just sitting and praying for 15 minutes and sending our energy. There are going to be thousands and perhaps even millions of people doing that with you. And we have no idea just how powerful and impactful that can be. As I said before, I really believe that this is the most powerful force in the universe. We can't explain it, we can't understand it, but we can feel it and we can see the results. I can tell you once again, let me give you one more example, actually.
Please do.
One of the more recent prayer vigils that I was part of was when I, excuse me, with a group of other religious leaders, we went to the border of Syria about, I think, 5 or 6 years ago now. And we were looking down from the Golan Heights into Syria, and there was going to be a massive prayer vigil for the situation there. And we could actually see a town in front of us that was held by ISIS. The battle was actually going on in front of us. We could see the tanks, we could hear the guns. And here we are on this hill, far enough away that we weren't in danger, but we could see and hear everything. And there we were, knowing that there were people all over the world joining us, and there were maybe 100 of us there on that hill with Jewish leaders, Muslim leaders, Christian leaders, singing, praying, people all over the world. And then we stopped and we had 10 minutes of silence. And whereas before these bombs and weapons were going off, during that period of silence, nothing. There was not a sound, not a single gun was fired during that period. And they began to howl right exactly when the prayer vigil ended. And we can't explain these things, and this isn't magic. These are miracles, and miracles are natural when we get out of the way and allow them to happen. So once again, we invite all of you to join us at noon New York time, 9 a.m. Pacific US time on the 22nd, which is Tuesday. Just stop what you're doing. Know that you're being joined by so many other people around the world. If you want to get the email with all of the information, you can go to my website, jamesftwyman.com. Go to unify.org/love, and you can actually watch us. We'll be joined by our contingency in Kiev. They are very nervous, as we can imagine, but they're also very positive that we are going to be there with them. They're not alone. They're not isolated. We will be joining them.
Brother James, Francis, thank you so much for who you are, what you do. It's always wonderful to have you on the shows, and I will be with you. And I know a lot of people are watching right now on Unify, and we'll all be with you watching on Unify Tuesday morning. And
Beautiful.
those who can't watch, take the time to drop in and pray. And let's keep praying and keep praying. Thank you so much.
Amen. Thank you, Scott, and many blessings. And may peace prevail on earth and in the Ukraine.
Well, thank you, Khadijah and Paulette, for still being with us. Thank you so much. Any thoughts that either of you want to share before we wrap up? We're almost done here. Khadijah, Paulette? And you don't need to share anything, but if there's anything you want to say, you're certainly welcome to.
I feel guided to offer a prayer if you have a moment.
Oh, absolutely. I will always have a moment to prayer from you, Paulette.
I don't know what the prayer is, but that's what I'm invited into, and I'm inviting you to join me and hold space with whomever this is for. So we take a deep breath together and tune into our heart space, crossing again into that threshold, across the threshold through compassion's door into the abode of love. And I invite you to feel whatever fears and concerns and anxieties you have coming up about the news reports and the pending stories of war. And feel that in your body. You may even feel your blood run cold right now with anxiety and fear. Just breathe and let that go. Not as a denial, just because we're raising our vision, we're raising our consciousness above that talk to the reality of peace and its possibility in our time. There is a biblical scripture that says, where two or three are gathered in my name, there I am in the midst. And the name is I am. And the I am is the divine within us. And there is power in the name of the divine. And so we speak to our inner divine nature, our higher self, and decree that we believe that peace is possible right here and right now, beyond all outside visions, all outside news reports, all evidence to the contrary. Peace is possible, and it begins with each of us in this place of peace in our heart. And so, united in our intention, unified in our purpose, we link heart to heart, mind to mind, hand to hand, across the ocean, across the waves, and we feel that circle of peace surrounding the world, surrounding every continent. And there are lights going off in every continent as our consciousness connects right now in this intention. They are lights of peace. They are lights of possibility. And so we speak peace. Speak peace where you are right now. Affirm peace is possible. Peace is possible now. And there is a prayer for peace for those who are grieving right now, those who have lost loved ones along the way, those who are witnessing their loved ones in their peaceful passing, Their hearts are breaking, and yet there is healing in this condition, in this circumstance too. And so we lift up those who are brokenhearted, who are grieving, who are in pain, physical or emotional, and we hold a space of peace and possibility for each of them. May you feel the love, may you feel the comfort, may you feel the strength fortifying you right now for what is ahead, for the journey that you travel, knowing that you do not travel this journey alone. Love guides and lights the way. And this is no platitude, this is no verbiage, this is the truth, and I decree it in the name and through the power and under the authority of the living, loving, divine presence within each of us, unifying us now in this intention as I release this word to go forth and express into existence as it has been decreed. And so it is.
And so it is.
So be it.
So be it.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paulette. I'm going to close our show with that. Thank you so much, Paulette. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for being with us. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow morning, hopefully. And have a beautiful, beautiful weekend. Good night, everybody.